Hello and welcome back to the channel, and as it's early January when I'm recording this, Happy New Year. So another month has gone by and it means another running night at my local motor railway club, which is the Newbury Club in West Berkshire, and another example of me taking one of my trains along for a running session. Here we've got a Class 42, British Rail Class 42 diesel hydraulic loco, otherwise known as a Warship, and 3 Mark I coaches, all in different liveries. In my mind, this is a very, very rough approximation of something you might have seen on the London Waterloo-Exeter line, probably sometime in the late 60s, possibly stretching into the very early 70s. I think it's a little bit of, there's a good dose of fantasy mixed in here though, because I think you'd be unlikely to find a 3-coach train on that line, and also I think you would be quite unlikely to get this particular combination of liveries. I think by the time the blue and grey appeared on the coaches, most of the locos were no longer in the maroon livery. So this is, say, a little bit of fantasy and a little bit of reality all mixed together. But it's a nice looking thing. I rather like it, and it's really quite nice to see it up and running and whizzing around the track. These running nights always tend to attract a kind of wide variety of bits and bobs to run as people bring along whatever they're interested in and give them a run. So I think you've seen in the background there was some centenary stock whizzing around. There's something American just coming into frame there. And yeah, some aggregate wagons just in the bottom there. In short, all sorts of stuff going on, as per usual, at the Newbury Club. Oh, there's an A4. There's always an A4 somewhere. They're nice locos. Okay then, so here is the loco itself. As you can see, I have managed to retain the inner box. I have managed to retain the instruction leaflet, but the outer box has vanished over the years. Now this is a mainline model, as mentioned before, of a Class 42 Warship. And it is, according to my notes, model number 37073, which is described as, has the running number D823 and the name of Hermes. Now, this loco is one that I have had for many, many years. I got this for my 8th birthday, it was an 8th birthday present from my parents, and there's a bit of a story behind that, which I'll come on to in a second. Before we do, let's give you the history of the thing. Here is the 1980 Mainline catalogue, and as we can see, there is the loco in question, listed as new. The blue and the green ones, they came the year before, so that's the first green one, that's called High Flyer. But the maroon one popped up a little bit later on. It was there again, alongside the green one. Actually, I paid the new green one, I should say. So that's a different green one to that green one. Yeah, so the new green one, it was there in the 81 catalogue. I don't think, I don't know, on the front of the catalogue they have the diesel sound advertising there. I don't think they ever did a maroon one with the diesel sound, but I could be wrong on that. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments if I am wrong. But yeah, that's the history of the thing. By the time the 82 catalogue came along, it had gone out of the catalogue, so it had 2 years in the catalogue. What's interesting actually is that a company in the 83 catalogue, so after a year of sort of not being seen at all, it pops up along with both the blue one and the original green one. All 3 of those pop up in this list of limited availability. So either they'd sort of stumbled across some more stock in the warehouse somewhere, or basically these ones hadn't sold as fast as they thought they should do, and they had some lying around. But these were listed as available, albeit with limited availability, in 83. Now, if you look there, you'll see that the actual catalogue number has now changed to 937073. But I'm pretty certain that if you bought one of these, you wouldn't get a box with 937. You just get the original box with 37073. I think they just They only change the number in the catalogue. They don't actually change it on the packaging. But again, if someone got an example of the packaging and can prove that wrong, please do get in touch. I'll be fascinated to see it. Anyway, so going back to the loco itself, as I mentioned before, it's been mine for over 40 years. It's not in brand new factory condition. It's had it's had a few knocks and scrapes over the years. First thing I noticed is it's very lightly weathered. I weathered it myself when I was in my teenage years. Frankly, I over-weathered it myself in my teenage years. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I managed to pluck up the courage to get the white spirit out and take off a lot of the weathering. Fortunately, not taking off things like the number plate, which you can do if you're a bit heavy-handed with the solvents. And it's now only lightly weathered, and to my mind, I think it doesn't look bad at all. Over the years, I've had to replace one of the handrails there that fell out, and one of the little hooks on the end has been replaced. I think I'm right in saying it's the one on this end. Right, yeah, it's one on this end. That's the bigger one. And one of these little lamps broke off, and that had to be re-glued back on, which was an absolutely fiddly job, of all things. One of the little bits of brake shoe has also had to be replaced over the years. When it runs, it has lighting at both ends, and the lighting lights up depending on which way the train's going, or the loco's going. As you'll just see in this little video here. Now, one of those bulbs is the original bulb it came with in the 80s. The other one is actually it's a bulb of the same age, would you believe? It comes from another Mainline Warship loco that I had for spares, and that was also it's also a 40-year-old bulb. So this has got two 40-year-old bulbs in it, both of which light up to this day, which is quite impressive, really. Traction tyres on 2 of the axles. Again, these are the originals. They are almost certainly due for replacement, and I might do that one of these days, but whilst they still work, I'm just going to leave them in situ. But on the whole, it's had very little serious work done to it as well, and it's had no major surgery, apart from just a little bit of maintenance, keep it going. And it really, in fact, the fact it still runs is amazing. And the fact it runs quite well is I think testament to the fact that these old mainline locos have shown remarkable longevity over the years. So anyway, popping it back in there. So actually, just thought I'd pass. There's a picture of it on my late father's layout, hauling a coal train with some other good stock there in the background. Get that in focus. So yeah, this has been a sort of staple of mine, of my fleet, if you like, ever since I was a young lad. So, how did I come across it, or how did I acquire it? Well, the story, I guess, starts sometime in about the early 80s, when probably my brother acquired a copy of this, which is the Lima Railways catalogue from I think 80-81, so it's a few years before this fella came out. Actually, well, I beg your pardon, about the time this one came out, although not about the time that I got that one. And if you look in there, because when he'd finished with it, I got given it, and as you can see in here, there's a page devoted to the Lima model of the very same Warship. Now, as I say, this being the early 80s and everything on BR being in blue and yellow, I remember being quite a fan of the blue and yellow livery and thinking that this one would be a nice model to have. And as far as I can remember, sometime in early 84, we were out, I think must have been driving to or from somewhere, I'm not quite sure where, and I seem to recall that my parents were asking my brother what he wanted for his birthday. And my brother, being my brother, he never tends to let on things he doesn't have to let on, so he was probably being a bit vague, as he sometimes does. And me, being a sort of precocious 7-year-old, sort of spouted up, "Oh, wait a second, I know what I'd like for my birthday." And the next thing we know, we are pulling up at a model shop. Now, the model shop in question is also quite an interesting one. I've dug out my February 84 copy of the Railway Modeller, and it has an interesting advert from that self-same shop. It was called ECOS Model Railways. I've been told by someone on the internet that ECOS stands for Expedient Coin of Sale, which doesn't make much grammatical sense or any kind of logical sense. I've got absolutely no idea whether that's true or not. It's just something I found on the internet. But as you can see, this advert contains, adverts for, LGB G scale stuff, which is mainly of continental outline. Plus a whole load of, what it mainly advertises apparently is that they can supply catalogues and presumably the stock as well for all these manufacturers, all of which mainly again produce continental outline stock or models. And that was the impression you got when you drove up to ECOS. That it had loads of stuff in the window, but it was all, to my mind, or to my experience, unusual foreign stuff. And what they didn't tell you was that they also stocked Mainline. I think they may have also stocked Airfix. I'm not sure, but by 84 came along, Airfix had more or less become Mainline anyhow. So we went to the shop, and obviously the guy hadn't got the Lima one because I'm pretty certain they didn't stock Lima, but he had got the Mainline one, which was fortuitous. And I have a vague memory of him lining up. I think he had the red one and the green one. I don't think he had the blue one, because I think if it had the blue one, I'd probably gone for the blue one. And me sort of picking the maroon one. And there we go. And then it's, anyway, it was whisked away, packed away safely, and then given back to me on my birthday. And it's been going strong ever since. Just as a little aside, this image here shows the Google Maps image of the location of where ECOS used to be. As you can see, it's now a chip shop, and the area in front of the shop where in the old days you could drive your car and park, that's now obviously been sort of chained off and fenced off. But it's in an area of Parkstone, which is near Poole in Dorset. The area is actually called Lilliput, which I always found quite amusing, particularly as, of course, Lilliput were one of the continental outline brands and model that ECOS probably stocked, which is a sort of small amusing coincidence. Anyway, yeah, there we go. That's where it used to be. Now, of course, all long gone. I've no idea what became of the shop, and I don't recall it lasting awfully long after 84. But yeah, if anyone knows what became of it, or what became of the people that behind it, then again, it'd be nice to hear from you in the comments. Moving on then to the first of the coaches. This is another Palatine mainline model, this time of a British Rail Mark 1 coach of the SK type, the standard corridor, and it's finished in the British Rail Southern Region green livery, not to be confused with the Southern Railway green livery, which was pretty similar but slightly lighter. Now this was a fairly short-lived model. The catalogue number was, if I can read the box here, 37121, and it appeared only once in the catalogue. Bring in my, what have we got here? We've got the 1981 catalogue. There it is. We saw that just a little earlier on. And here they are, listed as new. There's the SK and the brake SK, the BSK. Yeah, only there for the 1 year. By the time the X2 catalogue came along, they were gone. So, in relative terms, one of the harder one of the harder bits of kit to find on the second-hand market. This one is by no means perfect. You can see that. I'll bring it in a bit closer. You can see a couple of points there where the green paint has rubbed off. And over the years, I've bought and sold a few of these coaches, and always, that is a thing that I've seen. I've never yet found one where the green paint was absolutely perfect. And if you have a look at the box itself, you can see just at the ends there where the green paint has rubbed off on the box. Now you don't see that anywhere near as much with the maroon or the crimson and cream or crimson and chocolate and cream coaches that of the same type of coach that the Mainline produced. So I think it must be something in the green paint that just it didn't adhere to the plastic as well, and it tends to rub off on the highlights. This is actually probably one of the better examples. It's got a little bit of paint loss as you can see there, but it really is very minor compared to some that I've seen. Pardon me. Now, this coach I have had again for quite a long time. I got this when I was about 14, and the story behind it is that my dad had a friend, a chap called Les Osborne, who was a model maker, and he sadly died in about 1990. And after a little while later, his widow called in my dad and said, "Look, can you go through Les's sort of modelling artifacts and relics and things, and take what you want and sort out the rest for stuff that should go in the bin and stuff that should probably be sold on at auction or that kind of thing." And so one Saturday morning, my dad and I toddled over to Les's house, or Les's wife's house, Les's widow's house, I suppose, and spent the morning going through his artifacts. It was a little bit of a sad thing, really. I mean, I didn't know the guy particularly well, but I think Dad was a little bit sad to have to do that kind of job. But one thing we unearthed in a cupboard was one of these, and I mean, my dad had no particular interest in British Rail prototypes for his model railway, so he said to me, "Do you want it?" And I very quickly said yes. I thought that's a very nice thing to have, and I've had it more or less ever since. Well, not more or less ever since, entirely ever since. Yeah, it's a very nice little model, running number S25915, which I haven't looked it up, but I'm going because Mainline are usually pretty accurate in their numbering, so I'm guessing that's probably a prototypical thing, not just one that they made up like Hornby used to do. There's the C1 marking on the end there in the kind of 1950s, 60s style of sort of font. And I mean, the one thing I would say is that the window recesses are quite deep, although probably no deeper than the ones you'd find on contemporary Hornby or Lima coaches. And on the whole, I think, well, I've always been a big fan of the Mainline Mark 1, and this is no exception. I think it's in the green livery, they really do look quite nice, very nice in fact. And so this is actually one of my favourite of Mainline models. It comes with the it has the B1 bogies, which was the original type of bogies that Mark 1s first came with, or at least the majority of Mark 1s first came with. Right, there you go. Okay, so we'll move on to the second of the three coaches, which is this fella here. Obviously, immediately you can see this is another Mark 1 in the later blue and grey livery. Obviously, the key giveaway here is the word buffet on there, which shows that this is some sort of restaurant buffet car. This is a model made by Lima, and if I bring in the catalogue, again, this is the 8081 catalogue, and if I look around, where are we? There we go, right at the top there. There we have it. Number 305321, BR Mark 1 restaurant / buffet car. Now, this was in the catalogue for a few years. I've not got many of the later Lima catalogues, but I've seen this call. It hung around in the range quite a long time. And again, this is another model which I've had more or less as long as I've had model railways, really. This came to me in Christmas of '84. So if you remember, the Warship came to me in my birthday, July of '84. This came about 5-6 months later in December of that year. It was actually part of a train pack called the Intercity, and it took me quite a while to hunt out any information about that particular train pack, but I managed to find a photo on an auction site catalogue of what the set used to look like, and here it is. As you can see, because it's a Deltic locomotive, in blue, and 3 blue and grey coaches, 2 Mark IIs, and in the middle there's Mark I. The irony is, of course, that in this particular photo, over the years, someone has gone into this set and has changed the Lima Mark I, so just like the Lima restaurant car, for what looked to be a Triang Hornby one. So this set, as shown here, is incorrect, although clearly someone, or clearly no one from the auction house, spotted that, because there's nothing to denote that in the text. But yeah, the actual buffet car that should have been in there looks something like the one I've got here. So I've had this for many years. I managed to find a couple of photos of it. So here we can see a picture of, well, obviously the mainly of the Deltic locomotive, but you can just see the end of the coach there. This is on a layout that I had in my bedroom when I was probably about 10, 11, 12, something like that. Not a massively detailed layout, but just really good fun to play with. And somewhere around, yeah, here we go, on the other side here, here's that same Deltic and the same set of coaches. Here's one of the Mark IIs on my dad's somewhat superior loft layout. Again, somewhat out of sort of time period, if you like. It's got sort of this layout was sort of set in the 1930s/1940s, but it was always nice to get the old Deltic out and whiz it around the layout, and that's what this picture shows there. The coach itself is, pretty much undamaged all over its 40 odd years of service. The roof I did respray. It's starting to look a bit tatty over the years, so I gave it a respray in a sort of matte black, which is probably a bit dark. I mean, I think I'm right in saying they had sort of dark grey roofs rather than, most typically had dark grey roofs rather than black roofs, but this is near enough. The running number is 43212, which I'm fairly certain is just something that Lima made up. I've done a quick bit of research into it, and I can't find any examples of buffet cars or restaurant cars. There's a variety of different sort of variants of this thing, but they all had 4-digit coach numbers, and this has got a 5-digit one, so I think this is probably fictitious. Again, if you know different, please put it in the comments. I'd love to know whether I'm right or wrong on that. I think, as far as I can work out, this is what's known as an RU, or restaurant unclassified, on the basis that there's no, if you look at the sort of seating here, there's no first or second or standard class sort of delineation there. It's just unclassified. So there it is. Lima Mark I restaurant car. Okay, so let's move on to the third coach and the fourth and final part of our train. Here is the coach in question. Yet another British Rail Mark I model. Another coach from Palatine Mainline, like the green one we saw earlier. And in this case, it's a brake standard corridor, or BSK type. And like its green fellow mainline coach, it has a sort of excellent quality of lining and lettering and so forth. The running number M35040. The maroon livery is nicely rendered. It's the maroon livery that sort of took over from the various regional liveries that BR tried. So the green one was the regional livery for the southern region. That would eventually been replaced by the maroon, which was sort of standardised on for all the regions. Very nice piece of kit, very nicely running, very free running coach. And as I mentioned before, I think these mainline ones were probably about the best quality ready to run Mark I's you could get back in the 80s. Now, I've had this coach since I was about 13 or 14, which is probably more years than I care to remember. And it was one that I bought when I made my own money. Wasn't a present or anything. From a model shop in Poole, which is my hometown. And it's from this one here, Jeff Barlow Models, which, again, this is my December 84 Mario Modeler. And there, right at the back, a very small advert for Jeff Barlow Models. This model shop was the one that was closest to our house, so I was growing up in. and it's probably the one that I visited the most and was most familiar with, but ironically it was the one that I bought the least stuff from, and I think that reflects the fact that maybe sometimes their prices were a little bit higher, a smidge higher than some of their competitors. I was in the area recently and I took this photo of the establishment. As you can see, it's now some sort of Turkish barbers or something. But these front steps, I well remember, quite steep steps for small legs, and you sort of went up into there, and there you were in this magical world of model railways. And one day I went in there, and there behind the counter in the sort of second-hand bit of the store, the bit of the store that sold second-hand, not the store itself being second-hand, was this coach in its box. And after inquiring the price and finding it acceptable in this case, I duly bought it. But that's not the whole story, because let me show you what I thought at the time I was buying. What I thought I was buying was this, which was now this is the supplement to the 1976 catalogue that was released in 1977. So in 76, Mainline released a catalogue, and the year later, rather than release a whole new catalogue, they just released this fairly small pamphlet which had additional new releases to the range. And in there was this, which had two maroon Mark 1s, 37101, which is the SK standard corridor, and 108, which was the brake standard corridor. And I thought I was buying this. Now this, you see, has the BR type B1 bogies, exactly the same as as for the green coach that I showed you earlier, and that's what I thought I was buying. At the time, I thought that was the standard type that all BR Mark 1s have. I've subsequently learned that not all of them were built from new with B1s, but most of them were. And so when I got my new purchase home and inspected it, one of the first things I noticed was that this does not have B1 bogies on it. It has what are called Commonwealth bogies on it. Now, as I say, not all Mark 1s were built with B1 bogies. Some of the later ones did in fact come with Commonwealth bogies. But at the time I was quite annoyed and went charging back to Jeff to demand a refund. He told me that I was just talking a load of rubbish, and that that what he was selling was a brand new piece of kit, never been touched before, and that it definitely had the right bogies. Now it turns out he was part right and part wrong, because the next thing I noticed was, looking at it, was two things. First of all, here's the box, by the way. First of all, if you look at the catalogue number 937107, and this is listed as an SK. So the first thing that it's got, this is the box says it's an SK. The coach is clearly a BSK. It's a brake coach. So clearly this is not the right box, but it was the box it was sold in. So something's going on there. Second thing is this 9 here. As you saw from the earlier catalogue, most mainline models just had catalogue numbers 37. Something. But this one has 937 something. And it was only in subsequent years that I sort of found the solution to this riddle, which was contained in here. This is the 1983 catalogue from Mainline. So 83 is late in the day for Mainline. And here we see, brand new for summer 1983 is 937107 and 937108, and they are maroon liveried Mark 1s and BSK and SK, and they have the Commonwealth bogies on. So Jeff was right in that the thing he sold me was untouched, and no one had changed the bogies, and it wasn't dodgy. It was in the wrong box, but never mind. And here they are. So that after a few years in the early 80s, where there were no maroon Mark 1s in the catalogue apart from the restaurant car, these two made a reappearance right at the end of the Mainline saga, and this is one of those. What's also quite interesting is if I bring back the green Mark 1 here, which is the one we looked at earlier on, and if I bring in the other box, we'll notice that first of all the newer one has a taller box, and secondly it has a slightly shorter box. Can't really see that very well, but just take my word for it. There's a few mil shorter. And the other thing is that whereas this has this, the green one has the kind of the cardboard insert. The insert for the later one is a plastic one. So not only did they change the catalogue number, not only did they change the box, they also changed the insert as well. So subsequently, with the benefit of hindsight, it's quite clear that this was one of the later ones, and the green one's one of the earlier ones. And there we have it, really. We'll just wrap up the video with a few more shots of the train whizzing around the test track at Newbury MRC Club. And just looking at the timing of this video, I guess it's gone a bit longer than the other ones in this series. I guess this is pretty much due to me rambling on about my recollection of, in essence, how I came to acquire these bits of kit, which I guess is probably of less interest to most folk, and probably more for my own satisfaction, really, than anything else. But nevertheless, I think there's a certain internal peace that comes from seeing something you've owned since you were a little lad, whizzing round, still making progress and still going strong all these years later. And as I say, I think that's really quite something that I find, say, personally quite satisfying. Just I'd noticed, looking at this footage, that on that particular day, on a particular running night, there was another mainline warship whizzing around, which I think is one of the later green ones, which, if my memory serves, is Intrepid. So actually, there were two mainline warships going strong 40 odd years after they were last built, which in some parts of the modern railway press, the mainline warship gets a bad rep for being a bit prone to failure at this late stage in its life. Oh, there you go, there's that green one. But I think, the one I've got clearly is one of the better ones, or just by luck I've got one of the better ones, and it seems to be going strong after many years. And actually, under the right circumstances, it can do some very nice slow running, as some of this footage here shows. Actually, what some of this footage also shows is that the Newbury test track has a few voltage gradients along its loop, because the train does definitely go faster in some sections than others, which is not uncommon. Okay then, so thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you again on the channel sometime soon. Take care. And just as a little post-credits epilogue to this, as I was doing the editing for this video, I came across this book here, a book on the Salisbury to Exeter line by a chap called two chaps indeed, Phillips and Pryor, which I've had this book for about 20 odd years, but I completely forgot I had it. But it does have one, just up here, number 2, a couple of pictures of warships on the Waterloo-Exeter line, obviously on the Salisbury-Exeter section of the line, hence the book. But yeah, just a couple of shots there of what the real thing would look like, for a little bit of context. Okay, cheers then, bye bye.